I borrowed some materials from two other organizations that have done an awesome job at explaining this, and one of them is the Organic Farmers Association, and the other one is the Iowa Organic Association. The ones that are being handed out here, can I grab a couple of those from you or just one of each? So I'm handing out the two handouts that the Organic Farming Association has produced. And then my goal is to develop some materials for South Dakota that's similar to what Iowa's done. We're not quite there yet. So I'm going to have this handout. The handout I don't have up on the slide deck, so that's why I wanted to share it with everybody. And that looks terrible, but anyway, and I had made this in Microsoft PowerPoint, but I can see when they switched it over that it kind of got goofed, the wording got goofed up, but I'll walk through it with you. So, how many of you are familiar with the Organic Management Standard, or known as the Organic Management Practice 823, or what it is in South Dakota? I know I see the NRCS folks there. I'm just going to say there's these amazing documents that I wish I could, that were produced by, it looks like, I'm going to put you on the spot. Oh, there's some out on my table. You might want to take a look. I hope that there's some more out there. So I've got to share this. And I think this is an Iowa NRCS, is that right? If I look at this, was produced in the Iowa State office, this one?
Yeah, that one was.
So we don't have one for South Dakota like this? Oh, yeah, we do. How come I don't have a copy of it? I should have a copy. All right. So, okay. So I don't have the one for South Dakota, and I'm still learning. So I'm just going to talk about the big handout from the Organic Farmers Association, which was made for national distribution. And so our South Dakota folks can correct these documents if they're not right. So I'm still learning about this as well. But I wanted to talk a little bit about just letting you know what it is, just a little bit about what it is, and then how you can apply. And if in NRCS any of you want to step up and share, I will welcome that at any time. Harriet Behar with the Organic Farmers Association is what I would probably consider on the organic side, kind of the guru. She actually was an NRCS technical service provider at one time for organic, and she's, I think, reapplying to be another one. And she's based in Wisconsin, but she knows a ton about this. But what I understand, kind of in a nutshell, Organic Management Standard 823 provides conservation contracts to transitioning producers. It manages and improves natural resources on land. It integrates cultural, biological, and mechanical practices, and it fosters the cycling of resources, promotes ecological balance, and promotes biodiversity. So it's a program that you can sign up for through your local NRCS office that provides partial funding to add new practices to land to promote soil and water quality through long-term mitigation measures designed to fix current problems and prevent future degradation. I have no idea why that turned out like that, but I'm just going to have to read these through to you. Kind of some key objectives of the NRCS Organic Management Standard 823, so reduce erosion, reduce emissions, greenhouse emissions, improving plant productivity and health, improving soil health, reducing transport of pesticide nutrients like runoff into water and such, and reducing pest pressure and enhancing habitat for wildlife. So I'm actually walking through the process right now of applying for the Organic Transition Initiative. When I'm still learning about how the Organic Management 823 practices apply to my own farm, but I sat down with my NRCS folks in Clay County, and we walked through a number of different practices, and I chose these conservation practices that I'm going to be basically getting some payments on to be able to do. So right now, last year, the cutoff to apply for OTI, at least that's what I was told, was October 31st. But I was told also that people can apply at any time of the year, correct? And then the cutoff for 2025 is still October, or is it doesn't matter? Don't know.
We'll leave that this in.
Okay. So I don't know what that timeline was, but for 2024, I was informed it was October 31st. We got our application in, I think, October 28th. So in Clay County. So we got in right before the deadline. So I've been working with our NRCS folks on a number of different practices, suite of practices on our farm. It's not just one activity, depending on the type of farming being done. You can apply to vegetables, row crops, livestock, a mixed enterprise. I've been told, and I've seen spreadsheets, that payments can range anywhere from, depending on the practices that you adopt, anywhere from $200 to $2,000 an acre, depending on practices, depending on what you sign up for. There's so many, NRCS offers so many different programs that my mind was blown away when I saw the list. We signed up for water reclamation. I think they got fencing, pollinator habitat for your buffer strips. They have so many amazing programs that you can take advantage of to help you during those transition years. And one of the ones we also are really thankful for is, so during our first couple of years of transition, it pays for to put your farm in a cover crop seed or transitioning it into a crop that then you can use for later on as a green manure or plow down. So it pays for the seed and things like that, so you can adopt some of these practices. Now, there's this other term that they use quite a bit, and I was walking into the NRCS office, and this is no joke, and they're saying, well, what is your resource need? And I'm like, resource like money? And I didn't know what resource need, what do you mean? Like, yes, I need financial resources. That's what I'm here for. And he looked at me like, that's not what I meant when he said resource needs. I think we need to redefine that term. Farmers do not understand what that means. And so I'm thinking, oh, and he's like, no, we're talking about like the resources on your farm. What are your needs? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we need to expand our rotational grazing. We need help. We're planning on implementing a 4-year crop rotation. We want to integrate pollinator habitat into our buffer strips. And then he's like, okay. And then we started talking about why we wanted to do those things and how it was going to benefit and how it was going to bring biodiversity. So we had some really good conversations, but it took us a little while to figure out like what practices we were going to do. But I'm hoping in the long run that that this program is going to stay. I think it's an amazing program. I think it truly got me excited when I learned about it, because historically we've never had a program that paid producers during their transition time, and that was a big thing that was lacking. So to encourage transition, most farmers, they put their crop into alfalfa hay for 3 years or some perennial crop for 3 years, and they just let it sit for 3 years, and they weren't making any money on it. And so they were having this big loss, or they were really struggling. What do I do financially during those transition years when I have no crop to sell, but I still have to manage my land organically? And so this program helps to offset some of those costs by paying you to farm these kinds of practices. So I only have one copy of this, but you can download this from the Organic Farmers Association. It's the producer pre-office visit checklist. Do we have one of these in South Dakota? It's pretty good. You don't have it, but it's right here. You can download it from the Organic Farmers Association website. I understand Harriet Behar produced this. The Organic Farmers Association is out of Spirit Lake, Iowa. And on the back is a really cool checklist. And I'm like, every farmer should have this before they walk in their NRCS office. Just do the checklist and bring it with you when you visit. If I would have had this, it would have saved Caleb so much time. And so I'm going to try to get copies of this and get this distributed or put linked to from the SPA website. But basically, and it just helps you understand when you walk, before you walk in there, what it is that you're actually looking to do. And also helps you with, it's kind of like a pre-review before the NRCS staff visits your land and talks to you about the different things. So it covers a lot of different aspects. One of the other things that we're doing is we're adding a high tunnel. They're going to help with that as well. So on the soil health side, I did go through and read about some of the 823 practices. There's a lot of them. So I tried to kind of keep the high level pieces of it. But I do also want to mention that as I was going through the 823 practice, I saw a lot of overlaps with some of the other regenerative programs. And then, of course, the benefit of being organic is that looks like, you follow these practices that at the end, you'll be able to move right over into becoming regenerative organic certified. So there's a lot of overlap between the OMS practices and some of the regenerative practices that I'm seeing out there. So some of the practices to consider, just kind of the broad ones here, contour buffer strips, diversion to control erosion, field borders for beneficial insect habitat, field strips to channel water on steeper slopes, conservation covers, high and low tunnel systems, irrigation, water management, mulching, conservation, crop rotation, wind establishment. I went and looked at the list, and there's a lot of options for practices, a lot. And so I'm thinking there's got to be something in there for folks to help them as they're in their transition times. So on the soil health side, really it's, when you're using soil amendments, using approved soil amendments and composting rules, there's these crop rotation requirements, these cover cropping for long-term sustainability, and reducing tillage and soil disturbance. So it's kind of like looking for like the big bucket items for like what is the goal for these practices. And this is kind of what I came up with, in terms of what kind of those long-term goals are for what you want to do on your farm. Even as you're transitioning to organic, thinking about doing these things, well, you will have to do these things. So we want to encourage you to do that. And then under pest and disease management, not using prohibited substances, integrating pest management strategies, and then looking at the mechanical and cultural weed control methods. And just, this is a big one. Weed control is big for transitioning organic farmers because you don't have tools in your toolbox to pull chemicals out and say, we're going to start using these. So this is a big one that's often a struggle, and you have to just go back and rethink and put new tools in your toolbox. For us, when we have, in the past, when we've had weed issues, and we have Charlie Johnson's here, and he's talked a lot about what he does. Sometimes, there's a lot of different things that you can do, but mechanical weed control, mechanical methods using light soil disturbance is in some cases okay. But what we don't want to see is chronic soil tillage or primary tillage as a primary way for controlling weeds. So we want to use cover crops. We want to use crop rotations. We want to keep that ground covered. No-till is another option, but we just want to be looking at different ways to control our weeds because you won't be able to grab the bottle out of the cabinet and just start spraying your weeds. That's not going to work. And then water management and conservation, looking at best practices for irrigation, avoiding contamination of water sources like runoff, and then using permitted water treatment methods. So one of the things we're working with NRCS on is a water capturing system on our farm to be able to capture rainwater and then put that into a cistern and then pump that out into like our high tunnel or putting it into our gardens. It's a win-win for us because right now we're using municipal water. We have to put it into open tanks, let it detox, or get the chlorine has to leach off because when we put municipal water on our vegetables, it actually killed our strawberries. So we have to let the water leach off all the chemicals and the chlorine for 24 hours. Then we pump that into water tanks, and then we go spread it on the field. So for us, it would save a ton of money if we could capture our rainwater into a system and then use that, and they don't even need to worry about having to wait for the bleach to leach off and apply it to our sensitive vegetables. So anybody else have a problem with municipal water and vegetables? I don't know if other people have that issue, but in Clay, where we are anyway, they put a lot of they use a lot of water treatment products in the water, and it makes it, for vegetable growers, it's a little bit challenging. And then on perennial conservation buffers, we talked a lot about these minimum buffer zone distances. So for organic farms, I just want to mention there is no set minimum or maximum buffer zone distance. And so when you're talking with your NRCS staff, a lot of times at least I have found in my conversations, I didn't quite understand this, that each buffer zone is set based on risk and they vary from farm to farm. So if you go in and tell NRCS, oh, I'm going to do a 30-foot buffer, well, when you have your organic inspection, they may come out and say, well, 30-foot buffer isn't enough, or 30-foot buffer is too much, you don't really need it. And so, it all comes down to looking at, is your buffer strip adequate for your operation based on the risks that's going on around your farm. And that's where you work with your certifier to figure that out. NRCS cannot tell you that a 30-foot buffer zone is adequate. And if they do, you better call me right away, because they can't do that. I actually had someone tell me that, and that's not correct. So your certifiers who sets a lot of these, when I say set, I should go back and rephrase that, recommends or determines if the buffer that you have is adequate or not. So I'm going to put Charlie Johnson on the spot. Charlie, how did they determine the buffer strips on your farm, whether they're adequate or not?
Yeah, but I make.
Okay, you made the determination and they agreed with you. Okay, and that's okay too. On our farm, we have a bit of a different situation because we had a lot of overspray incidents. So we had to increase our buffer strips. We had them at 20. We had to increase them for a time to 75. And then when we got our overspray issues resolved, we reduced them back to 10 because the farmer on the other side of the fence did a 30-foot setback on his side, which is rare. Now, does your neighbors do that too? Do they set back on their side, or they farm right up to the fence line?
Far up to the.
Okay.
It helps in our situation. A lot of our acres are contiguous.
Okay. Okay.
So look like how
Gotcha.
you are getting.
Okay, perfect. That's a great situation. The other situation is if you own all the land around you, even if you're farming it conventional, you're in control, right? We don't have that privilege. So my buffer strips, within a 5-year period, my buffer strips shrank and expanded multiple times based on what was happening with my neighbors. Also, we had, due to, I don't know what kind of chemical it was, we lost all the trees in our buffer strip. The chemicals killed them all out. So I don't know, we tested it, and the chemical that tested positive on our fields was one that they used to kill shrubs along the Missouri River and stuff. I mean, it's a shrub killer. I mean, it just kills trees, it kills shrubs, they're dead. We lost a lot of trees. And so these were mature trees that were in our buffer strip that we relied on to help break some of that, that was coming across. So NRCS can help you by replanting trees and shrubs and kind of rebuild your buffer strips. So you can plant trees and shrubs and pollinator habitat, tall grasses. The native grasses that we have growing in our buffer strips are as tall as my head in the summertime. That's a really good buffer, like when the wind's blowing, it kind of breaks that. So it's trees and then this tall, like really tall grass, and then the crop. So it helps to break, if there is drift, it does cut it down some before it gets to the crop. And that's really the whole goal. So those buffer zone distances vary, but NRCS can help you pay for the seed or whatever it is that needs to be in there. So I want to talk also about, is just having grass enough? And the question is, it depends. I've seen situations where it was just so high risk, and it was such a situation with the neighbors that in order to retain their certification, they had to put up a physical barrier of trees or shrubs in order to maintain their certification. So it depends. So even with no spray signs and communication with neighbors, that's all really essential to keep your farm where it needs to be. Now, I don't think NRCS pays for the no spray signs, but there are organizations that will provide them to you for free, and then mitigation strategies for your high-risk areas. And that's going to be essential. If you're transitioning to organic, you're going to need to identify your high-risk areas. I write on my farm a risk management plan every year, which includes a number of different steps. And the whole reason I do that is it's all about mitigation. It's all about preventing it before it happens. And then livestock integration, very much encourage that. And then looking at the animal welfare standards and management. Does somebody have a question? No? Okay. Animal welfare management standards, organic feed and pasture requirements, antibiotic restrictions as well, and humane handling, living conditions. I understand kind of all of this is built into the organic management standards as well. Is that correct? That there's different aspects in there, so you just try to follow. Very much also aligns with some of the regenerative standards and animal welfare standards as well. So steps to apply is you contact your local NRCS office. You'll, at least this is how it went down for me. I could be correcting me if I'm wrong, but we contacted our local NRCS office. We worked with Caleb to develop a conservation plan, identify our resources and our needs. We completed the forms. We submitted the application. Right now, our application, I believe, is being evaluated and ranked. That's kind of where we are now. And it's been a really good process for us so far. I think I'm working on getting some maps of some different things, and it was a great experience for us to actually walk through that with NRCS. And then at some point, a contract is issued, and then the practices are implemented. And then, is there like a yearly? You guys check yearly, come back and do visits on how the practices are going?
Well, make implementation that
Okay.
practice. What practice are what?
Okay. So I kind of think of the organic management standard as Organic Plus. And as I was going through it, actually, I was kind of excited about it because it's really has higher standards than what organic has in a lot of ways. As I was going through the different practices, I'm like, oh, that's a little bit more than what would be required in organic, right? Because there's a lot of things in organic that are missing in organic that I see in the NRCS organic management standards. So I think it's actually a good thing because, yes, it does take a little bit of extra work, but you're going to be rewarded for those practices. So I think that's a good thing. On the back of one of the sheets I handed out to you, did you guys see this contact information on the back? I think the South Dakota contact may be wrong. Can you confirm that? It is wrong. So see, we need to get, this is out being distributed in the Plains region, so we probably need to fix that. But that's what they sent out. And this is an old one. This is from last year, so I don't know if they've done one for 2025 yet.
Our EQIP OTI still vaccine jet boat.
Okay.
March.
Okay. So I'll reach out to, they're actually working on the 2025 one right now, so I'll reach out to them and see if they can update that. So the OFA contact, and I'm just going to share this with everyone. Besides the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association, the Organic Farmers Association, Harriet Bihar is an amazing resource for the program as well. In fact, I'm trying to get her actually on an upcoming webinar. She's been involved with this since its inception, and she's been working very close with NRCS for a while. And I think she was going to be a great resource for us as well. This is fairly new to me, but I think as I read through it and I'm learning more about it, I think it sounds like it's a wonderful program that allows farmers to get paid for doing these practices that are really beneficial for the land. We're working on one of the goals that we have for the Regenerative Agriculture Pathway Program is to create materials and publications like the OFA has created for South Dakota, and to create webinars and materials to help producers more forward-facing, producer-facing information to help producers enroll in this program and make it easier for them. And my role as an advisor, one of the things that I am hoping to accomplish is to be that middle person, that when that person contacts NRCS and says, hey, I'm thinking about transitioning to organic, why don't you schedule a site visit with Angela, walk around, kind of get a layout of the land, what you feel you want to do, fill out the checklist with Angela, and then bring that with you to the NRCS office, and it is going to be very much helpful. And so I kind of talked about this with Caleb in Clay County, and he thought that was a fantastic idea because when you come in, you may not know what you need. You may not know, what you want to do on your farm. And so oftentimes a conversation needs to happen with an advisor to help guide you in those practices. What is it that you want to do? So here's the list. Which ones do you want to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? And how do you want to get there? And each farm is so different. Each situation is very different. Charlie's farm is very different than my farm. I have a very small 14.5 acre farm. Charlie's 2,000 acres. His buffer strip situation is going to be way different than my buffer strip situation. And risk is different from farm to farm. There's a lot of variables. And I think I think my goal, hopefully, is to be able to do those on-site visits and visit with folks to help them understand, okay, this is what you need to do, and then go to your NRCS office with this information, and it'll make the process so much faster, so much smoother for your staff at NRCS, and also for the farmer. It'll lessen their frustration because they're not going to be going to have this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They'll have a better idea of what they need to do. And even if that's just a transitional plan written out, okay, this is what my rotation is be, this is where my pollinator habitat's going to be, this is how big my buffer strips are going to be, these are the crops I'm going to plant, this is what my 5-year rotation is going to look like, just kind of having all of those things worked out, and being able to spend like a whole afternoon at the farm with the farmer and helping them to make those decisions. So that's really kind of one of the other beautiful pieces of this, is that those services are available completely free to farmers. They just call me up or email me, set up an appointment. I can do it over the phone. I can do it over Zoom. A lot of times I just like to go to the farm and spend some time with the farmer. I bring the standards with me. I bring the frameworks. I go through everything. I give them, I have a organic transition plan binder that they get that's got all the steps laid out on what they need to do and when they need to do it, and contacts and resource guides and all of that they get loaded up with completely free. So it's available for everyone. Thank you.